Perfect.
What is going on, guys? Welcome to the Jaff Man. I'm your host Jaff. Now it's been a little while since I've made some of these videos, primarily because I've been really busy getting a new house, fixing it all up, building a man cave, but more on that later or in future episodes maybe. But for now, I really wanted to talk to you about my GH5. This has been a very trusty little camera for the best part of just over 2 years. I've got the Panasonic 10-25 f1.7, I made a video about that up here, and it has been a decent all-round package. But based on the title of the video, you already know what time it is, and it's about time we upgraded to full frame. Now you can see in form factor, they're very much similar. This is smaller in many ways, we'll get to that in a second. And I'm surprised by the lens package, apart from this lens hood, which is quite bulbous if you ask me. But putting them things aside, why did I upgrade? You know, is it worth it? What do you lose out on? What are the benefits? A lot of people are touting this S5 as the new GH5. They're not very comparable because one's full frame and one's micro four thirds. The sensor is like almost 4 times as bigger on this one. And then comes, you know, different challenges with that. New lenses, new recording formats, the missing recording formats compared to the GH5. This was a top of the range and still is a top of the range mirrorless micro four thirds camera, and this is basically an entry level full frame camera. But entry level or not, this is still, in my opinion, quite a worthy upgrade to this camera, although there are some reasons why it might be a bit lackluster, and we're going to talk about everything in this video. Other people have been talking about it, mentioning it, but not everything that matters to me in the detail I'd like. So let's take a deep dive into both of these bad boys. Let's just start with the differences at the top. Mode dial in the way you expect it, hot shoe where you expect it. Eye cup is ever so slightly more recessed. You can just see it about there. I'll show you like that. So that might be annoying because you want it to be sticking out a little bit more if you can help it, I guess. Now the main thing for me at the top that bothers me, apart from everything else, this changing to here, which is usually your aperture control, not an issue. This is mush. If you can hear it, it's just mush. It doesn't have a physical click to it. You just kind of know you've clicked it when you hit a bit of a springy, mushy point. Whereas this, you've got the half press, which is absolutely silent. The spring mechanism in this button is great. Then you got a physical click, which is obviously very, very nice. Again, this is a reoccurring theme in all the buttons. So if you see here, click, not so much a click, a bit of a mush. Although it has more travel, this you just know it's clicked because of the noise and the tactile feedback, whereas here you're kind of feeling for that travel to know it's been actuated, as well as the difference in commands on screen. These are in the same place and they have been on many different Panasonic generations, which is great. I've reassigned some of these because, as you can see here, we have a function 1 button, which is also useful, which is missing here. Now they probably could have fit it in, but they decided not to for whatever reason. Maybe it got in the way of where this works, because this is obviously built in to here, inside the body. And then here they have it on top. Either way works fine. But obviously getting used to a few of these function buttons is something that you don't really want to be missing out on. Luckily the front one is still present, and I probably think they could probably have had another at the front quite easily, but they chose not to. And then the biggest thing at the top that really gets to me is why they just couldn't add a locking mode dial. See, like this, even the movement and the hard stops in this feel a bit softer than my used GH5. And that mushy feeling of the buttons continues. The joystick, they've changed that. This was a much grippier, longer, not that there's any problem with the way it works, but as you can see, it just doesn't protrude as much as the old one did. It's a lot flatter. Now here, guess they cheaped out on painting this playback button green. It used to be green. It has been green on any other Panasonic camera, but I don't know if they cheaped out or what. Again, this level of mush continues. This is not too bad for your MF to continuous to shutter. This again feels cheaper. It's smaller. This has better hard stops. You can even hear them better. This is a lot more silent and the stops are not as strong. Get a little wobble in this display. Is it common here? Less so, surprisingly, because you can see here the hinge mechanism is obviously shrunk a lot. As you can just tell, this is a lot taller of a hinge mechanism. Pretty much the same menu system that you're used to in all Panasonics. Great touch and intuitive system with the controls. This is slightly more higher pixels, this is slightly less, but they don't really make a difference. The size on this is a bit lacking. I wish it was edge to edge by now. Maybe they could have a 3.5 inch. It needs to get bigger somehow. It needs to be at least 4 inches somehow, because then it's a usable flip screen when you're filming yourself. And you actually have a separate AE AF on button. This was integrated. This is now a menu shortcut for your focusing modes. Okay, now anyways, let's move on to the side. This is now more perpendicular and more streamlined. On the GH5 the card used to be offset, but it doesn't really make a difference. It's just a bit easier to grab because it's up and down rather than fighting the smaller distance. This rubber on the body is much harder now. Not as soft feeling as this. Maybe this is just a bit worn and that's why. I'm not sure if they've changed it. The remote function, which is the like headphone style jack, still matching on both. This is obviously less resolution, but it doesn't seem to be that bad, to be honest. This is the newer style battery. So I guess this doesn't like to be as upside down as stable as the GH5 did, but whatever. As you can see, these pins are the same, so the new battery can fit in the GH5 no problem. But due to this design change right here, as you can see, which was more for the charging locking mechanism, didn't really affect anything else. It doesn't, the old one cannot work in the GH5. You can see where that is just there. Because that groove here needs to go there. This is 2200 milliamps. This is roughly 1800 milliamps. So in the same size, they've gone up. Not that they couldn't go higher, but I think, yeah, an improvement's an improvement. They could probably push 3000. It's going to be 2 AA cells at the end of the day. Here, you had the mic jack right at the top. So when you open the screen, it's nowhere near in your way. Okay, what they've decided to do here is integrate them into one flap, mic and headphone. And more annoyingly, when you open the screen, as you can see, one can get in the way. So when you have your screen open like that, you get that cut off. I guess a simple solution would be to cut that half yourself if you really were that way inclined. We move on to the lower flap, if you ever wanted to open. Here we had a full-size HDMI, and this pushed many other cameras to adopt it. USB, you can charge it now, which is great. On this you couldn't charge the damn body, it was only for data transfer. Whatever reason that was for, probably they didn't add the right microcontroller and it was too far in production and design to ever add it later, because the G9 you can charge the camera, takes the same batteries, and obviously it's the same damn features pretty much now with all the updates. So we will see this get better as well over the years, and hopefully that is a continuing trend with Panasonic and they don't go under like many other people have prophesied. Moving on to the 2 bits of glass I have at the moment. This is the daddy lens for MFT. It's the 10-25 Pani Leica f1.7 constant aperture. It's a fat boy, and this is for some reason a bulbous headed 24-70 2.8. Now we all know you have to double up everything on MFT, so this is basically 20-50 f3.4, and this is obviously full frame, so it is a 24-70 2.8. You get more light in this, you get a better range. This is slightly wider, but that's about it. And yeah, build quality wise, they're both made out of metal, they're both weather sealed. This feels more geared to video, obviously because of the clutched focus ring and the aperture controls, which is clickless. This retails for £1,000, this retails for 1,700. So like, what the hell, man? £1,700 for this, which is an absolute rubbish really, considering I get this for £900 imported from Hong Kong, and also for £900 I can get an 85mm 1.4 Sigma art lens with a clickless aperture ring. So basically for the price of this I can have two really great lenses, which is pretty much all I'll ever need. Now moving on to autofocus, we can see it has rapidly improved in this generation. Apparently this S5 has the best autofocus technology that Panasonic have ever come across or made or developed, or whatever the hell it is that they do with their DFD systems. They claim that DFD is superior because phase detect affects the quality of the image. Whatever, who cares? At the end of the day, it's not the best autofocus system, but it is massively improved. And here in 4K 60, you can see it grabs the subject a lot quicker than it ever has before. And in 60 FPS mode, it can basically pole 60 times a second and somehow grab focus a lot faster. When we move on to the next mode, which is now going to be 4K 30, you will see it slow down a little bit. I think it's still quite smooth and still very usable. It seems to be locking onto the subject very easily. Now this is with one area AF. This is not me helping the camera by pressing the AF focus button, but it is just finding the subject in focus by itself. One area AF always seems to work the best and still does. In any other mode I wouldn't really recommend it. Face tracking is fine, although I don't really have the time to stand around going forward and backward in front of the camera. There are other people who have done it, and you can see the S5 has definitely made great improvements. This mode in this clip is 4K 24, and all of these are obviously using APS-C modes because, sorry, these are not using APS-C modes. All of the 4K 60 only used APS-C mode. The other modes are using the full width of the sensor, which is why they take a bit longer, as well as being less polling with the less frames per second. But on the whole, a lot more improved and a lot better than we're used to. Micro Four Thirds really have to light the shot to get the most out of the camera, whereas with full frame, you basically work with whatever light you have and crank up the ISO to safe levels, especially with this dual gain ISO, and it's clean video, even like 6400, whereas this will start botching up way before then. So that's it. Time to say goodbye to the GH5. Time to embrace full frame. A lot of people probably would have from the future. A lot of people probably thought this was a dumb format, but it made sense and still does in many ways for a video camera, which is what it is for me and what it is to a lot of people. But I will say this is just as good, if not better, and the photo quality is better, the AF is better. I don't miss out on any of the codecs because I've never used them anyway, and I'm gonna have a play around with Vlog at some stage because it comes for free. Well, that's it guys, I don't really have anything else to say. I'm just gonna leave you with this little ending piece.